Oh yeah, also, oh my god, this is going to be great! Wow, this is going great. Hello. Okay, I am white as a ghost. This is scary. Okay, anyway. I totally forgot that it is the end of January because I don't leave my house. So basically every day is the same. But it is the end of January, so here's the promised wrap up because I am going to keep my New Year's resolutions. Yes, I am going to do that. So we have notebook and cow cup with hot cocoa and caffeine inside. So I'm gonna stay awake. I read, all in all, 5 to 6 books. So the thing is, I think I already said that before, but I read like 2 half books because I had 2 books to finish from last year. But one of them was so thick that I think because it's time I read 6 books. Whatever. I'm gonna introduce you to them all, and then next month it'll be a clear number because today I finished the last book of this month, and so we can just start fresh in February. This is such a sweet cup. Like, look at the cow. It is so cute. Cows are the most adorable animals, by the way. Okay, keep track. So this is my calendar. Like, not my book calendar, but my overall calendar. And I, because it's a bullet journal, on the last page of the month, I made like a list of books that I read because I promised to schedule them. And I also did schedule them in Goodreads, but I don't trust myself at Goodreads, so I did it twice. Yes. I read 4 books. I listened to 2 audiobooks. Oh yeah, also, oh my god, this is going to be great. I joined the Discord server this month. And it's a bookish Discord server, so people talk about books a lot in their book clubs, which is great. I love book clubs. But the book clubs are only fantasy, and I don't read fantasy, usually. I read the normal stuff, like Harry Potter, but all in all, I don't read fantasy. So we're starting with the fantasy book I read because I wanted to join a book club and I had to bow myself to the rules. Okay, wow, this is going great. So what I read, we're going to start with the audiobooks. 2 actually. I read Senlin Essence. I'm gonna put you the cover here somewhere. It is about a man called Thomas Senlin, and he is on his honeymoon with his wife Maria. They want to go to the Tower of Babel, which is a tourist attraction. It's also in the Bible, so I was very confused at the beginning. And I couldn't find out throughout the whole book if it's the same thing or if it's just named. So there was never an explanation for the name. And as a Christian, I was a bit confused. Like, not in a how dare you way, but in a I've heard that before somewhere way. So yeah, anyway, tourist attraction. They want to visit the Tower of Babel. And in front of the tower there's a market and it's quite crowded, so he loses Maria and they can't find each other again. So basically this whole book is about him entering the tower to find his wife. And on his way, he meets a lot of people. So the tower is basically, it has many floors, and on every floor there is something like a task you have to fulfill or something similar, and then you can enter a stage higher. So he enters the tower, all the tasks and all the people he needs change him, and he has a character development, and in the end he went from... Is that a spoiler? So I'm not sure if that's a spoiler. So if you want to be sure, maybe skip 5 seconds ahead. But he goes from kind of a cowardly man, at least that's what it said in the blurb, to someone who knows who he is and who, through character development, made some great friends and can stand his ground now. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how it ends because that's not what we're here for. But yeah, I read that. I gave it 3 stars, 3.5 stars. Yeah, I think 3.5 stars. So the thing was, I'm not a big fantasy reader, as I said, but it was, I still saw that it was a good book. You know, like you read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books in my time, and I start to be able to distinguish good ones from bad ones, even though I know it's all subjective, but not having a discussion about that now. But it was a good book. I give it that. And it's certainly on my recommendation list and on my giving it to friends for Christmas, like friends who actually enjoy fantasy books. Yeah, it's just not really my kind of genre. So that's why I'm not so sure, and that's probably why it wasn't a 5-star book. So as I said, I listened to it as an audiobook, and it was about 14 hours, I think. And a lot of the times when I would have had time to listen to it, I would do something else instead because it wasn't that intriguing to me. Then I listened to Oseman's Loveless. I think I posted that on Goodreads before, but Oseman is entering the category of my favorite authors. She is so cool. Firstly, she has a lot of diversity in her books, and I love that for everyone who finally might feel a bit more represented. Then her characters are always relatable, quirky but not too quirky, and not in an, oh look, I wrote a quirky character kind of way, but in an, oh yeah, people might actually be like that kind of way. She always has really endearing characters that seem very real, and I would love to be friends with some of them. Oseman's Loveless is about a girl who just finished high school and is now starting college, and she is a big romantic, so she loves all the fan fiction and all the books and films that are about romance, and she dreams about having romance, that kind of fairy tale romance herself one day. She has 2 best friends who are so cool, and they all going to go to the same college. She's a big introvert, but she is the only one of the friends who has to share a double room. And in the beginning, that is very scary for her. Can relate. But her roomie turns out to be a very cool person, even though she is quite the opposite of her when it comes to relationship experience, stuff like that. But they never fight about it. They never compare each other in an unhealthy way, which I really loved. Yeah, it was just all in all very wholesome, and we follow our main character on the journey to find out who she is, and not only that, but also to coming to terms with it. And it was very endearing and very emotional. It made me laugh, it made me cry. It had all I love in a book. So yeah, deserved 5 stars. And it might actually be my favorite Alice Oseman book so far. So then I read then I read 4 physical books. Those were firstly Sarah Dessen's Lock and Key. I finally finished it. Can you believe that? So I started that one at 2020 September. And it's a reread actually. I started reading Sarah Dessen when I was about 14 probably, and I loved her. She's my favorite author since, one of them. And I distinctly remember this book to be one of my favorites from all of the books I've read by her. But I didn't have it anymore for whatever reason. I think probably I lent it to someone, never got it back. Which is really sad. Don't do that. If people lend you books, give them back. So I ordered a used copy of it and read it again. So About Ruby, or Lock and Key, is about Ruby, who would have thought, who grew up with a violent and very often drunk mother and an older sister that she loved dearly. But when her older sister went to college, she left the family, and Ruby never really forgave her for that. When the book starts, her mom hasn't come home for quite a while, and Ruby tries to manage the house and her life by herself, and just tries to not make anyone suspicious. But her landlords snitch on her, kind of. It's not snitching, but they call the authorities, and she is being dragged out of the home she knows, and they have found her sister, who is now married to Mark Zuckerberg. No, it's not Mark Zuckerberg, but like it's basically Mark Zuckerberg. And then Ruby's going to live with them. She has a neighbor, Nate, that is very friendly to her, and obviously because it's a romance book, they're going to fall in love at some point. And over the course of living there, she has to rekindle the relationship with her sister, and she starts warming up to this new family, to friendships, and to maybe being someone with a better life, and starting to think that she may deserve it after all. So it's actually quite the endearing story, and that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. It was just not as good as I remember, because I think when I read it the first time, I think I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was the other one I had to finish from last year, Jodi Picoult, The Storyteller, or Dessen's Ende der Geschichte, which translates to Till the End of the Story. It is about a baker, Sage, who has a scar from a car accident on her cheek, which makes her very insecure, and in that sad car accident she lost her mother 3 years ago. Since then she visits a regular... Oh my god! Sorry, I totally thought I forgot the window, but it's fine. Oh my god, my brain doesn't work. Yes, so where did I stop? Yes, she's visiting a consolation group for people who lost people, and there she meets an old man in his 90s called Joseph, and they start to become friends. But then Joseph reveals his dark past to her and asks her to kill him, basically. To be honest, sadly, the point of view of our main character Sage was actually quite boring, and I did not enjoy the love story that she had with the FBI person. It just seemed a little bit too plain for me, and I'm just used to better by Jodi Picoult. So yeah, that's basically it. That's why I only gave it 3 stars, 3.5 stars, around that. Usually Jodi Picoult books are 5 stars in a row, but not this one. I gave it quite a high rating because some throwback chapters were really good. Some were just repetitive and made it longer than it actually needed to be, as I felt it. Also, I didn't like the character development of Sage because the message it sends, I didn't like the message it sent. So basically at the beginning she was very, it's not a spoiler, at the beginning she's very insecure, especially because of the way she looks with her scar. But when she meets Leo, the FBI person, and starts to fall in love with him, it's not love at this point, and he approves of her basically by loving her back. This changes her whole view of herself, if you will, and she starts to keep her head high. I'm totally fine with myself now, and I can look people in the eyes and show you my scar and I don't care, which I think would be a great development, don't get me wrong. It's just the way that she got there, I didn't like that, because it only happened because a man approved of her, not because of something she learned, or it was not a character thing, it was a basically, like, just imagine what if they break up, then she starts feeling bad again. So never put your self-worth into the opinion of other people. I think that is what I didn't like. There's actually a review up on the channel for this book, but it is in German. Yeah, I read that. Coming to our next book about the Holocaust. I don't know. I was in a row with those books. I read The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by Boyne. And this one is an interesting one, actually, because I gave it quite the high rating of 3 or 3.5 stars. And then I slept about it and read some other people's opinions and reviews. And they made me realize some things. So I think the problem with books like these is that you feel bad rating them low because they're about genocide, and just all books that feature scary or big or negative topics like the Holocaust or rape or just stuff like that, we feel bad rating those books low because it feels like we didn't respect the things the books are about, even though it might just be the way a book is written that is why it's low rated. And I came to the conclusion that it's okay to rate books like this low if you didn't like the book, and that this doesn't mean that you have no respect for the event and the victims. So yeah, I rated this book low. I changed my rating in the end. Yeah, this book was my 1-star read. I didn't like it. Not a fan. Yes. Last book. All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This was such a disappointment. I think, yeah, I told you about this in my New Year's resolution video, that I really wanted to read this year because I started reading it in 2020 and didn't come very far, and I want to read this for years. I've seen quotes of it. I love to quote out of context. It actually was a major disappointment. I didn't like the book at all. I think it was problematic. It had a lot of messages you shouldn't have in a book that is directed to 13 to 16-year-olds. Yeah, short, it is about Violet Markey, who meets a freak of the school, Theodore Finch. I think it's supposed to be opposite attracts romance, but it's also about suicide and mental illness, and it is a hot mess. Let me put it lightly. In her afterword, the author, said that she wanted to write an edgy romance novel, and she definitely succeeded. It was very edgy, very angsty, very quirky, but not in a cool Alice Oseman way, but in an, oh look, I know quotes by this and this dead person, I'm so quirky, now I'm going to kill myself. So, didn't like this book at all, but there will be a video up on the channel where we're talking about this a lot. We are having a book discussion because I have marked a lot of the problematic sentences to chapters. I still have to upload it, but this video will be uploaded first, so yeah, look out for that. That's it. That's what I read in January. I'm actually quite proud of myself that I really filmed the wrap up. We can go on like this. I really like how I'm working my New Year's resolutions so far. But yeah, it was nice to have you. If you have read one of those books, you have an opinion about that, or you hate me because I hate on your favorite book, let me know. Let's have a fun discussion. Goodbye, I guess.